Welcome back, everyone. I'm Tom Murphy, and this is Trinidad Now on Trinidad Times Television. With me for segment 2 on economic development is lifelong resident Sonnie Leone. Sonnie, we're going to jump right into this. What are the most pressing issues facing Trinidad?
Housing, infrastructure, really infrastructure. Given the tools to the City of Trinidad entities that they need. One other thing that I really think about is everybody says the entrance into Trinidad is off of I-25 coming down the corridor, and you're coming from the west side. It's not only that, it's coming from 350 and 160. My business is down there. I know what comes past there. The City of Trinidad is doing a good job as far as on the streets. What they did on commercial, a lot of people complain about it. That's a beautiful job. There was a lot of problems there that they encountered, the contractor encountered there, that wasn't on the plans that they had to go through and work through. I think the continued expansion of Main Street all the way down to where the city limits is. Of course, the city limits goes clean on out to Cougar Canyon now. But if you go down East Main, you're going to end this job right outside here, is where this job ended, right where your place is.
Right.
Now they're starting back up the other side to Maple.
Right.
That's going to look good. And it needed it. But you also need to continue going down East Main. That's one thing. People coming in there, they see that part of town too.
You mean with the
curb and gutter, sidewalk, street,
right,
where the weeds are growing up in the sidewalks? That's bad. On First Street, have you taken First Street?
No.
That needs to be changed too. It's bad.
Yeah.
Infrastructure, you're losing 40% of your water coming out of the filtration plant to Trinidad. You're going to do the sewer, and you're going to put liners in them. But that's on Main Street, right in front of where we're going to have Arts to Create. It's going to be 2 blocks there.
Space to create.
Space to create, yes.
Right.
But the City of Trinidad's got problems all over. Look at the sewer plant.
Mm-hmm.
Look at the water line that we had a year and a half ago that was broke there at Valdez. Look what you've had on West Main just in the last year or so. They're deteriorating. They're going to slip line them and but the things that they're doing on the water line up above and the sewer line now, them are Band-Aids. Them are Band-Aids that's costing them some money. You need to have, the City of Trinidad needs to start someplace and put money away, or start putting money away, or start doing X amount to bring, because let me tell you something, the water line coming in Trinidad, that's our lifeline. That's our lifeline. If you ain't got water, if you wait until you ain't got water, you go to turn your faucet on, you ain't got it, you got a problem. You got to invest now, so that you don't have problems in the future.
Okay. Anything else?
No, I think infrastructure is one of the main things.
Okay.
Water, sewer, and gas.
Okay. So if you could travel in the future 4 years and look back, or just travel in the future and see Trinidad, what would you like to see that's different from today in 4 years? What would you like to see?
I'd like to see more businesses in Trinidad that hire like 15, 20 people, or in the industrial park. And to tell you the truth, not having a whole lot of knowledge of the industrial park, but I don't know how much land is left in the industrial park that somebody could come in and do something. Because the marijuana industry has bought up a lot of that property in the industrial park. And our water, your water, when you mess with water, you're messing with our lifeline.
Right.
I'd like to see businesses on Main Street. I'd like to see, and I realize they're redoing a lot of buildings. I think, like you said, there was 61% was vacant, and now it's less than maybe 30%. Mm-hmm. I like to see that. I like to see Trinidad help people that get in business. I realize I think economic development is doing that now, somewhat on rent.
Right.
I don't exactly know
We'll cover that in a little bit.
what it's about, but I like to see Trinidad help new businesses to stay in business. And our workforce here is sometimes the workforce here, somebody comes in, they can't find somebody to work. But you got Trinidad State Junior College. That could be a hub to help the workforce here in Trinidad. And I think that they'd love to do that.
Well, I think at one point even Moulters introduced the heavy equipment operating, didn't they?
Right.
And that's kind of gone away because the oil and gas has gone away.
Well, not only that, they did that when you had the Interstate 25 job.
Okay.
Some of them people got jobs there because they had learned heavy equipment. There's
Right.
always room for somebody to get a job if you want to do it and work.
Right.
You know,
Well,
there's a lot of how would I want to say people that don't want to do computers.
Right.
They want to do hands-on. I'm a hands-on guy. It took me a heck of a long time to learn how to do what I know how to do on a computer.
Right.
But I'm a hands-on guy. My son's a hands-on guy. Hands-on guy is what makes this country go.
Yeah.
It ain't only because the big shots have hands-on guys doing the work.
This is a little off, not necessarily though, but question. But you run heavy equipment.
Right.
How do you get? Okay, I've never handled a piece of heavy equipment. How do you get somebody? How do you get into the position of where you're going to put somebody in a $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 machine? I mean, is there steps or whatever? I don't understand how you get to the point where you can handle something like that.
If they got experience.
And what though? Where do you start with the experience?
Where do you start?
Where do you start?
You have to have somebody that's want to be willing to do it and ain't afraid of a piece of machinery.
Right.
If they ain't afraid of a piece of machinery, you can show them. If they want to learn, it's like anything else. They'll learn it.
Isn't it a gamble though for you to go?
Yes, it is. It's a gamble. But in our business we've been kind of lucky. We've had people that came to us, but the ones that didn't, we taught them. All the time telling them just for a joke. I taught you how to do that, and I paid you and send you to school. I paid you at the same time. That's a joke
Right.
with my guys, and they go along with it.
Right.
But yes, if they want to learn, if anybody wants to learn, you can learn, no matter what it is, whether it's heavy equipment or whatever.
Right.
You can learn it, and sometimes we take a gamble.
Well, I'm trying to think of the two guys that I had. Butch, I did a little bit of dirt work out back here, and I watched those guys handle that
Excavator,
like a hand,
yeah.
hand. It's like they scrape down a straight wall. I'm like, how do you do that? How do you just go like a hand?
I hired a guy here a while back that he'd never been on any kind of a machine. I put him on a loader, and I put an experienced guy with him. And you know what he had done? Computer.
Oh, really?
He picked that up so fast, it was unbelievable. He said, "Oh, that's just a joystick."
Oh,
He said, "I use joysticks all the time."
right. I'm learning a lot on YouTube on automobile stuff because I've got some old cars I'm fixing up. Stuff that would intimidate me. You watch it, it's like, oh, I get it. This isn't that hard.
Sometimes it looks a lot easier than it is, though.
We got to be
right.
careful. We're going to
right.
get off track here. Anyway, okay. So, how familiar are you with the city budget? What are the city's main revenue sources of expenditure and revenue?
You know, as far as the city's budget, I'm not going to say I'm real familiar with it. I know what they get from their taxes, okay? And I was at that meeting when they had the marijuana money that they got in. And I never could figure out as far as what the different grants that they have, what they've got in grant money, and what they have to match. Sometimes it's 40%, sometimes whatever it is, 60%.
Mm-hmm.
And for me to sit here and say, I know everything about the city's budget, I don't.
Okay.
But I'm going to have to learn it.
Okay. Okay. I'm going to read you this question, and you've kind of addressed this, but as I said, I'm trying to go through these so that I'm fair to everybody.
Right.
And it's just asking it maybe in a different way. And I think you talked about this maybe with the junior college, but industry recruitment is very difficult for rural communities, especially ones where healthcare, education, and workforce development systems are below par. What type of businesses would you like to attract to Trinidad with that consideration?
Well, like for instance, Tractor Supply. I know we could have had a Tractor Supply here. And the reason I know that is because one of the main things when you're in the concrete business, the first people that come to Trinidad that are going to do something, they come to the concrete companies.
Oh, yeah.
That's where they go. Tractor Supply had some knowledge and had asked some questions here in Trinidad, and it was through a contractor. It wasn't through the Tractor Supply company. The contractor that builds these places for them came to the Ready Mix one day here about 2 years ago, before Raton got theirs, and said they were thinking about putting a Tractor Supply here, and if what could we supply, because where they were going to put it, they were going to need a lot of fill. I know Lowe's had looked here before. I'd like to see something that ain't going to put the little people out of business, the ones that are here. Something that'll coincide with what they got.
Okay.
Something that will bring industry in here, whether it's in the industrial park or the city of Trinidad. Any little thing that you bring in is going to help Trinidad. But you got to help them people stay in business. And no, if they can't run their business, no matter what you do, you ain't going to do no good. But you got to help them some way or another, either with incentives, some kind of incentives, like they're doing now. City's doing a little bit of incentives through economic development. You know what I'm talking about?
Right.
I think it's rent, paying X amount of rent, whatever it is.
Redevelopment, stuff like that.
And I think that's a good thing. But after that's gone, I wonder what's going to happen. But if they're steady and they make money, they're going to stay there.
Okay. The growth in the tourism economy has been outstanding over the last 2 years. Do you support the new tourism economy, and what would you do to continue to promote the tourism industry?
Oh, I definitely promote tourism. Tourism, I think, is really beneficial to any town, but to Trinidad, people come here to see Trinidad.
Right.
I mean, that's what they come to see. They come to see our brick streets. They come to see our Ave Maria Shrine. They come even to the cemetery. They come to the cemetery and see the cemetery. Some of them have people there, some don't.
Right.
I think that they're promoting it in a good way. I think they've done a good job of promoting it.
It's one of the things that it took 3 times to get that passed.
Yeah, right.
And now, it's. I don't think people ever look say, "Do you have a tax on the room that I'm getting?" And I'm not going to stay here. It's
no. Everybody's paying.
Yeah.
That's a good thing.
Yeah.
And that goes back to a little bit of what you said about the county a while ago. If everybody pays, I think the county will get that passed.
I hope so.
Because they need it. The county needs that.
Yeah. We not beat up on the past, but if we had debruced years ago, we would have been better off. Now, even if they debruced, because the valuation is so low,
right.
They talked about it at the county meeting. This is why I know this. I'm not a genius. I just go to the meetings. They said, we can debruce, but it might be $50,000. I'm pulling that out of my head. It's 50 or 100. It's like now it's almost too late. But if we had it 10 years ago.
No, that's like when the city debruced.
Right.
They did it about the right time.
Yeah. But then we might be mad because they're not spending it right.
Right. That was the whole idea of the debrucing deal.
Right. We're damned if we do and we're damned if we don't. Yeah. But right now we can't change the past, but we got to do something different.
We got to move on to the future. As far as the tourists, I think the tourists is what really makes a lot of Trinidad.
Right.
That's all you see in the summer, and it's more and more all the time.
Well, I've said publicly, when we closed the paper, Paula got a call, and it was from a guy writing a book about communities like ours. And when he was done interviewing as to what happened, she asked him, well, what are communities like ours doing? And he said festivals, things like the Blues Fest and things like that, because that's a huge interjection.
Oh, yeah,
and so we're doing Santa Fe Trail Days, we're doing the parades and things like that. So we're at least trying. There's no doubt.
And you need to have things like that.
Yeah.
You need to have things almost every day. But one of the things that I kind of been a pet peeve of mine, and it was way back when one of my planning and zoning directors, her name was Mary Holden,
I remember Mary.
And she was pretty good. But she always said, this is what we did in Texas. And I was on the Planning and Zoning Board then. I had been on there for quite a while. So one night when she brought that in, she said, this is what we do in Texas. And I asked the chairperson, who was Glenn Davis, I raised my hand. I said, Glenn, can I talk? He said, of course. I said, Mary, I want to know what we're going to do for Trinidad, not what we're going to do for Texas. I said, Texas is Texas and Trinidad is Trinidad. I said, let's work on Trinidad. And from then on, she said, if we had any kind of conversations, this is what we want to do for Trinidad, Mr. Leone. But anyway, I just profess what I think of Trinidad. Trinidad is Trinidad. It's unique. It's a unique town.
Right.
Do we have problems? You bet we have problems like
Right.
anybody else, but it's unique. It's unique in history.
Right.
It's unique all the way around. And everybody that comes here knows it's a unique town. You hear
Right.
them. You hear them all the time.
Right. Well, it's clear your passion is in the right place, and your heart and your passion. There's no questioning that. So, Sonnie, the city created an economic development department 2 years ago. What ideas would you have for economic development if elected? Again, you've answered this just a different way. I'm just still following through the questions. So, just the question we kind of asked, but asked another way. So, the city created economic development 2 years ago. What ideas would you have for economic development?
I
know.
I think they're on the
answered
right
some of
path.
this.
I think they really
Okay.
are on the right path. I think that Trinidad's lacking housing. Okay, and some of the they ain't got a whole lot of places here in Trinidad where there is some places, but the infrastructure to put in housing is unbelievable. The price nowadays to put a housing unit in.
Right.
It's unbelievable what the housing.
Well, we had the issue not too long ago about the apartments that they were going to put over on the south side of town.
Up there off of
Right.
Alamo and up there.
All right, so you know a little bit about this. Remember years ago when Cougar came in, then magically there was going to be a third course.
Yeah, up there off of Santa Fe Trail.
And then Buzz was going to build a car. How come we
Dealers.
haven't developed that area? Or is there a water table there?
No, I think that can be developed. Originally that's where, if you remember right, Noah's Ark was going to put something
Right.
up there. And people
Right.
complained about it.
Well, they didn't have the money in
Right,
the
they
end.
didn't have the money
It was
then.
going to be
But anyway,
big.
that can be developed up there. You got that there, and then you got over there where the Big O Tire is.
Right.
That's a good development area too,
Back in there.
right? And that's on the comprehensive plan that you can put in there.
Okay.
And you got the one out kind of north of town where that Diane Sanesteban has her little development out here.
All right.
And that's a multifamily development. She's got everything is set in there for multifamily development.
Okay.
And I think they're on the right track though. And the infrastructure for the city of Trinidad, it comes back to that too. What can you supply right now? When you run an asphalt plant, which there's an asphalt plant out at the industrial park, somebody's low on gas pressure. We ain't got enough pressure out there. Some kind of a boost station. Anything you can help economic development to get something in there, you have to have the entities to do it. You have to have the gas, you have to have the water, you have to have the services. That's what you have to have.
Okay. Now you've answered this, but I'm gonna read this just again so everybody says, hey, I did it. Last year, the city economic development focus was on stabilizing our downtown to create an attractive atmosphere for commercial businesses. Rental assistant, facade redevelopment, Main Street patios, entertainment district. What's your opinion on all those?
I think they did good, and I speak from my heart, but I speak that, in my opinion, the patios, I see that being something happening in the near future, the way they're set up. I know they went to Salida, and that's what Salida did, but this comes back to what I just said. This is Trinidad.
Right.
This is Trinidad.
Okay.
And I think your head of the economic development, I think he's doing a fair job. He's a young guy. He's doing a fair job.
Mm-hmm.
But everything they did, I agree with 100%.
Okay.
But the patios, what we did there on Commercial Street, when we narrowed the street up, and you put the 10-foot sidewalks, that's where the patios belong.
Okay.
That's what that was made for.
Okay.
That was made for.
All right. We had already you've already kind of mentioned the vacancy downtown dropping from 61% to under 30, so we've got that. And even though I asked you about marijuana, now this is an economic development question: is where should the marijuana money be spent?
Wherever it can be spent, as far as helping Trinidad with the, if it can be spent for infrastructure, that's where I want to put it.
Okay.
That's where I'd want to put it.
Okay.
If that's where, I don't know if you could be spent. Another thing I don't know, and I'd like to find out, this was a question that was asked to me yesterday. Mr. Leone, on that 1.7 million or 1.1 million, what was it? I said, well, what do you want to know? He said, is it 9% or is it 11% that they're collecting on the pot? I couldn't answer the question.
Right.
He said, so if it was 9, like it was originally, is the money that they picked up that they're distributing now, is that from the 5%? Is that from the 4%? Or is that from the 9%? And I had to tell him, you know what? I can't answer that question because I don't actually know.
Right.
And I don't.
Right.
I don't know. And that's a good question to find out, and I'm going to find out.
Right.
It's
It's available, certainly. So, and we've talked about this. Water losses, 40% from point of origin to town. You've kind of addressed that.
Right.
So,
that goes along with infrastructure, man.
right. This kind of economic, and I should have moved this up, but what happens when the marijuana money goes away? What can we replace it with?
That's what you got to have. You got to have other entities here. You
Right.
got to have other people coming in here. That's why I said 15, 20 jobs that hire 15 or 20 people. When that goes away, because that's what we've always depended on. The mine, the gas, that's what we always depended on.
Right.
And when them go away, whatever time it is, whenever that goes away, and you know as well as I do, if you get another state that's close to us that gets that, we ain't going to be in that position.
Boom and bust. Just like oil and gas.
Right.
Some
And that's
people
why I said in the beginning when we had started talking about businesses, you got to have other businesses, and you got to have them businesses that support them businesses.
Right.
And you got to have. That's why you can't have just one. You're depending on one thing again.
Okay.
You got to have multi businesses.
Okay.
Like, okay, for instance, the marijuana people, they hire people, and then people buy food and they buy gasoline here. But just like for instance our business, okay, we need diesel fuel, we need oil, we need parts. It just goes around in a circle. When you have somebody in town that your business is here, that money goes around. And the city makes money too.
Right. So here's a question for a lifelong resident like you, because those of you who are there, lifelong residents, have a lot of passion for this. What's your solution for Monument Lake?
I don't believe in selling any entity. I never have believed in selling any entity. I told that to Gabe England at one of our planning and zoning meetings. He said, we ain't selling it, we ain't leasing it. They're going to run it. Whenever you lose control of an entity, whenever you either lease, let them run it, or whatever, and you lose control, you lose control. They can do anything they want to. I do not believe in selling any kind of entity that the city of Trinidad has, whether it be the Monument Lake, the golf course, all that. You mentioned the Blues Festival, yes, and the arcade, yes. They bring a lot of people into town, but so do them entities. Them entities bring the city of Trinidad golf course. That's noted all over the country, that golf course. You got to keep that golf course city. Do they supply water or whatever? And I know there's a big old deal going on with that golf course. But I don't want to see any city entity sold. I just don't want. It's right here.
Right.
That's a city entity. It should stay here.
Right.
That's just like, okay, then if you're going to sell that, go sell a park, and then you have to pay to get in it. They bring money into Trinidad too. Mm-hmm. You got the Blues Festival, it's one time a year or whatever, and they bring a lot of money, and it was excellent this year. Everybody put that together. They did a heck of a job. But you got to think of the other ones too.
Right.
I don't want to sell anything. I don't want to let anything go that city. And Monument Lake, I know they're up there doing, and the person that has been there, he's done a pretty good job.
Right, Mike. But he didn't rebid or whatever.
Yeah, he didn't want to rebid. It had whatever it was.
I think the big issue with Monument Lake, Sonny, is what it's going to cost to fix the bathhouse and a few other things.
Yeah, but they let it go.
Yeah, but now it's got to get fixed.
Yeah, it's got to get fixed.
Okay.
I wouldn't want to see anything sold, and I wouldn't want to see anything I seen in the city paperwork that they were thinking of a 50-year lease. You would never want to give a 50-year lease to Monument Lake.
No.
50-year lease. No. You got to have somebody that's trustworthy, and maybe you got to have somebody too that checks on that once every 3 months. That has to go up there and check on it once every 3 months. This is what you've done. Let me see what you've done.
Right.
This is your part. Contractor or whoever you're leasing it to or whatever. This is what you've done. We want to see that. Show us what you've spent on it. Because the city has to spend money too. And you're going to have to spend money to keep it up. And once you let it go, like you say right now, $300,000 in a bathhouse. Yeah, because it was let go.
Yeah. Last question of this segment, and we addressed this a little bit earlier, but and you haven't been at these, but you may have an opinion about this. Many meetings through the years have occurred between city and county. Hopefully some things we're going to get done. It doesn't seem like a lot has. What's your opinion about the city and the county working together to make some things happen? And why haven't things happened in the past? That you may, personal opinion, you weren't there for the meetings.
I wasn't in a lot of meetings, a lot of them meetings. I've been to county meetings when it was just county meetings. And
right.
City meetings. I've never been to a meeting, I don't think, where there was city and county. But
they've had some joint meetings. I was there, I filmed them.
Yes, they have.
To talk about collaboration, and it seems like they talk and then nothing happens.
I don't know if it's conflicts of interest that they have, or people that on the council that's maybe forcing themselves, or people on the county commissioners that's forcing themselves, or whatever. Because I think and some of it comes back to, in my opinion, to Pino and Canyon Maneuver Site. When Pino and Canyon Maneuver Site was going to come in, the city of Trinidad was for it, really pushing for it.
Right.
The people down there, it came in.
Right.
And then they wanted to do some more, and people formed that coalition down there, and that's a tough coalition.
It is.
And the city of Trinidad was trying to, I think it was a bucking, it was people that at that time there. I don't know no names, but I think it was, we're going to do this, and we're not going to let you do this. And I think that now that the county is in the shape it is, and the cities has already helped them with $50,000, and probably going to get another $50,000 maybe here in the near future to help them. The only way that you can work with you have to have the people that want to work. If they don't want to work with you, no matter what you do, you ain't. But if you have somebody that you could talk to, or somebody that could bring the city and the county together, I'd like to work on that. I know the county commissioners really well.
Right.
I've worked with them for years. And I know the city, but you got to have people that want to work together. Whether it's the staff of the city and the county, or whether it's the Board of County Commissioners and the City of Trinidad City Council, because everything goes through, basically, everything goes through your city manager. And that's another thing that is kind of, I shouldn't bring it up, related. The city manager, right now, I've talked to him twice. Once I talked to him about the panhandling, and I talked to him again about another subject. But he's got some thought. I like him. Mm-hmm. I like him. But I asked him this question. I said, why don't you be more forward with the city council? Because you know what? When you go down the street, and not with him, because he hasn't been here long enough, Mr. Sun. But when you go down the street and somebody asks you a question, well, how come this is being done? And you don't know the answer, and then you come to find out, yeah, it's being done. The person on the street knows before the city councilman knows. I said, is there any way, I said, I'm going to run, is there any way that you could be more forward? I said, I realize you're hired to do this. That's what you're hired to do. But is there any way that you can be more forward with the city council, whether it's a meeting, an open meeting, or whatever, or you have a work session? is there any way that you could bring something forward that maybe we should know about, that we don't? So we don't have to have a person on running down the street and talking to you and asking you a question that it's the truth and you don't even know nothing about it.
Right.
And he said, we can work on that. We definitely can work on that. He said, but a lot of times, he said, the council, that's what I'm hired to do, is to keep problems. I said, I understand that. But sometimes I says, I think the council needs to know. They need to know what's going on. So we don't have to, when a person asks us, oh yeah, we know about that. Yeah, well, I can give you this answer here. This is why. But if I don't know about it and I can't give an answer, what am I there for?
Right. I know of some cities that, let's take capital improvements, and then we're going to wrap up this segment. They'll actually say, here's what we're going to spend it on this year. And then as it gets spent, it's on their website. They'll show, that it's actually been done so people can get their answers.
Right.
Because there's a lot of capital improvement, that would be a whole nother segment. Capital improvements of what was supposed to be spent on, what actually got happened, and
Is that
things
going to
like
be a
that.
segment now?
No.
I could get into that.
You just made me think about
I
it.
can get into capital improvement.
We got to be careful, otherwise you're going to lose people.
No, that's fine.
I'm gonna switch cameras here. We're gonna take a short break, and we're
Okay.
last segment. Everyone, I'm Tom Murphy. This is Trinidad Now on Trinidad Times TV. We'll be right back. You're doing great,
On that
Sonnie.
capital improvement.